longer lever, shorter throw. Introducing Steeda's new Tri-Ax short throw shifter for your dark horse GT350 or Mach 1. All right, so we got our new Steeda Tri-Ax short throw shifter for the Tremec installed on our new 2024 dark horse. Now, one of the reasons why we really like this shifter is because it maintains all the factory OEM components. What does that mean? OEM reverse lockout, OEM shifter base. It's a short throw shifter with 0 increase in NVH. That's noise, vibration, and harshness. It's one of the most common complaints with aftermarket shifters. Oh, I installed a short throw shifter, now my transmission whines. Well, your transmission probably whined originally, but when you add solid mounting points and you take out some of the factory shifter components, it's going to generate more noise coming from the drive line. Maybe you got a one-piece drive shaft, things like that. The beauty of this is it's a pretty straightforward install. You got a 20% shorter throw, yet it's super quiet. There's no transmission noise whatsoever. So, short throw shifter. There's various ways to do this. Back in the day, I was joking in the office, the Honda Civic guys, they'd start off with a shift lever this tall, and their short throw was like this. You'd have to like move the shifter boot out of the way just to shift the thing. Well, that's the easy way of doing it. The problem is, especially in Mustangs, if you're a larger guy and your seat's sitting back, you're gonna have a hard time reaching the shifter. It's gonna be way down low in the shifter boot, and it really makes it very uncomfortable to shift the car. Well, the other way of doing a short throw shifter, which is the more desirable way, is to change the actual pivot ratio of the shifter. So what that means is we have a stock height shifter that's got a reduced throw. Well, you do that by changing the pivot ratio. So the top half is gonna stay the same length, the bottom half is gonna become longer. Every movement up top increases the movements down below, which is a great thing because once again, factory height, now you are gonna move it a little bit less. That's what happens with a revised pivot ratio from the bottom. But it's going to allow you to shift the car more crisper, whether at the road course or the drag strip. Those are milliseconds, but they really add up. Take Sebring, you got 17 turns. Glenn is out there shifting a ton. If he can cut a fraction of a second off of every time he shifts the car, well, you're all of a sudden gonna be going quicker, even though you didn't do anything to the suspension, you didn't add horsepower or aero, you're spending less time in between each gears, and that's gonna really add up going around a racetrack. The other thing is just from a driving perspective. Every time you get in your manual car, this being a Tremec, so that's gonna fit all your GT350s, your Mach 1s, the new dark horses, you're gonna get instant enjoyment. Not only is it not gonna make noise, it's gonna be super quiet, but you're gonna really feel that difference. The shorter throw, front to back, and it's just gonna generate a lot more smiles. That's cool. Well, that's definitely a lot more fun than the stock shifter. What the f is vibrating so bad? Oh, keep it open. This is awesome. That is much better. Even going over the humps, the tack is jumping up and down when I'm looking at it. Oh, this is cool. Really, really cool. In the high RPMs is when you can really tell if the shifter is gonna vibrate and whine, so just listen. Just the sweet sound of the dark horse. One of the other beauties about the short throw shifter is if you did option for the Recaro seats, like we did in the dark horse, I found pulling second gear to be a pain in the butt because of the extra bolstering right here. So now With this shifter, you don't have to come back as far. Makes it a lot more comfortable trying to hit second gear. Because shockingly, I had a harder time shifting second gear than third gear, which is typically your problematic gear when trying to grip it and rip it. So one of the crazes with the new S650 has been the Dark Horse titanium shift knob. I know from manufacturing, titanium is ridiculously expensive. It's lightweight, it's super strong. That's why it's used predominantly in aerospace equipment. The Dark Horse shift knob is titanium, but it retails for $450, and I'm shocked at the amount of these we sell. Trouble is, it's only available in one color. So when we decided to release our new Tremec short throw shifter, we said, let's make shift knobs with some different colors. Now, all four of them are made out of billet aluminum in-house on our CNC lathe. We then send them out to get them anodized in different colors. So if you've got a red car, like this Dark Horse, what looks better than a red shift knob on it? Or our white HPDE car with a whole bunch of black graphics on it. Well, I stuck a black one in there for Glenn Vitale. It just goes so much better with the overall package. So very inexpensive. You can get those for under 75 bucks at Steeda.com. The other beauty about our shift knobs is we scan the factory knob to make sure that we made an exact duplicate of it. What this does is allow you to still utilize the factory reverse lockout. You don't have to change reverse lockouts. Once again, you don't have to worry about any NVH, any squeaks, any rattles. It is super, super quiet. It fits nicely in your hand, and it's available in all those different colors. We're going to start with the install by removing the two Torx bolts holding the drift brake handle assembly in place. On either side, there are two kick panels that are clipped in place. Just pull them away to remove them. There are two bolts holding the center console on either side that can be removed. Use a trim tool to pry the inside of the center console up. The trim piece around the drift brake can be pushed up from underneath to release it. Rotate that trim piece around and remove it. Carefully release the trim around the shifter boot so the center console can now be removed. The sound deadening material can come out as well. In some applications, the shift knob might be on there pretty tight. If you have some rubber material to help you grip it, it will come in handy removing the shift knob. Once loosened, remove the shift knob completely. Pull up on the reverse lockout collar and the shift boot and trim will come off. You can now remove the topmost rubber O-ring. Do not lose this as it will be reused. The rubber seal is kept in place with a pin. By pushing down on the spring, it makes it easier to remove. In order to remove the pin, place a nut on one side and then use your pair of vice grips or channel locks to press the pin out. Once you've got a bit of the pin out, you can now use a pair of pliers to remove it completely. Then remove the spring and the rubber shift boot. There's a plastic shroud surrounding the boot that will need to transfer over. Lastly, there is one more O-ring towards the bottom of the factory lever. Remove this and place it to the side. To get more room, we're going to disconnect the clamps connecting the resonator to the mid pipes. There's a metal tab on either clamp that needs to be bent out of the way. Before you unbolt the cross member, use a jack to support the transmission. slowly lower the transmission down, as we'll need room to pull the stock lever out from underneath. Remove the last 2 bolts holding the cross member in place. Near where the drive shaft mounts, there's a bolt holding the shifter linkage to the transmission. That needs to be removed. Here you can see where that bolt is in relation to the shifter. These 2 bolts need to be removed to take the linkage and shifter assembly out. An extension will help you reach this. Once those bolts are out, the shifter can now be removed. Use a pry tool to remove the plastic C-clip holding the linkage in place. Pull that pin out and disconnect it from the lever. When we removed our shifter from this housing, an O-ring fell out, so we want to make sure that it's still in place. Use a flathead or a pry tool to stretch this rubber seal around the bottom of the lever. Be careful not to damage it. Then the plastic bushing. The plastic cup simply snaps off. Grease the pivot point of the new Steeda Tri-Ax shifter. Then stretch the plastic bushing over the bottom of the Steeda shift lever. Take your time, as this is a tight fit. Using a bit of grease at the bottom will help get that rubber gasket back in place. You'll want the wider part facing the threads of the shift lever, and then use 2 flatheads to get some leverage to stretch it over that lower portion. Once again, take care not to damage this rubber boot. We recommend installing the linkage while the shifter is still off the car. We didn't, so you'll see why we recommended it. Get the new lever up into place. Make sure that the plastic bushing is also in place. Reinstall the metal ring that holds the shifter together. We'll get that linkage connected to the bottom of the shifter. As you can see, it's not as easy from underneath the car. The pin can be used to hold it in place while we bolt the other end to the transmission. Squeeze the pin in place by using some flatheads. Then the plastic clip can be reinstalled to secure it in place. Lift the transmission back up into place and get the cross member tightened back down. Push the exhaust clamps back up and secure them to the mid pipes. Back up top, we'll reinstall the lower O-ring and that plastic shroud and the spring. Then pull the spring back and go ahead and install the 2 included studs. You're going to have one on each side, sticking out enough to retain the spring in place. The rubber seal that surrounds these studs needs to now be lined up. The upper O-ring can now go back on. The large rubber boot needs to go around that plastic shroud. Then the sound dent material goes around that. The center console piece can be lowered into place. It might help to install the shifter boot and lockout collar while it's still loose. All 4 bolts securing the console in place can now be tightened. Press the shifter boot trim piece in place, as well as the trim for the drift brake. Slide the handle trim on and tighten the 2 bolts down. Reinstall the 2 trim panels on either side. Reinstall the shift knob, making sure it isn't too tight and the pattern is lined up. Also check to make sure the reverse lockout is functioning properly. You can also now power the car to make sure the backup camera activates and the car is in gear. Now we'll show you some of the shift knob options we have. So we just showed you how to install the shifter in your Tremec transmission Mustang. Now the new shift knobs we have fit not only the Tremec, but all the MT82 cars as well. So to show you how simple it is, you're gonna take your factory shift knob, you're gonna thread it off, pretty straightforward, and then you're gonna pick one of the variety of colors we have. Blue, red, black, or plain billet aluminum. Since this is our white HPDE car with some nice black graphics, we're going to go and install the black shift knob. Now, unlike some of the plastic offerings on the market that you can tighten up too much and pop the top off, trust me, we see it all the time. The billet aluminum construction tightens down, reverse lockout still works perfectly, and it really is simple. No NVH, no rattles, no nothing. You want to change the color, simply undo it and put on your different color shift knob. Now, as you can see, now that we got the stock shift lever out, it's several different pieces. Got your top half, this piece is pressed together, lower shaft is going to be welded on, and the bottom piece is going to be, well, welded on as well. Steeda piece, solid billet, 1018 steel that we've nickel plated. We got these nice Delrin bushings that are pressed into the bottom, and really it doesn't get much better than this. Short throw, no NVH, and it's a simple install that you're going to enjoy every single time you get in your Tremec equipped S550 or S650. So hit like, subscribe, follow us on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and remember the most important thing, Steeda, where speed matters.